Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 46. Episode 46 of Matt and John Make a Podcast. This week we are joined by a special guest, Eric Perez. And we're just gonna be talking about pretty much anything no said uh uh agenda this weekend. I guess for you, Eric, we can just
Well,
talk about like how we met up and and stuff. I recall, I want to say it was like right around WrestleMania 30. It's probably when we started talking. We just like kind of just like hooked up and and stuff, and we actually met up. I think it was at WrestleMania 32,
yeah, that one in
yeah,
Dallas.
Yeah.
right, which was a ton of fun down there. Because we came in, I think on a Thursday, and we
Yeah.
went exploring, which it was pretty cool seeing all of the stuff that down there from like JFK's um I'm like stuff and everything, you know.
Yeah, I loved the JFK stuff. I thought that was super cool to see live
Yeah.
because I've always, watched it, on TV, seen a million different conspiracy theories on it. Went to school, and that's a big part of American history. It was great. We got in. I think I got in on. Did I get in a day before you, or we came in late? I might have came in like late Wednesday. I
Um,
think.
actually, we came in on that Wednesday because I completely forgot that everything started on that Thursday.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, I count. Yeah, that's right. Because what
I'm
do we
like
see Thursday?
Evolve?
Thursday.
Was it Evolve?
Um, so
Because there was a.
Because no, I thought. Oh wait, maybe it was because Friday was NXT.
NXT
Saturday was we went to ROH
and
and there was
Evolve.
and
I'm sorry.
Involve.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Sunday was Mania, of course,
Yeah,
and then Monday was Raw, and then we left that Tuesday.
right. Oh, hey Matt, do you recall when we were walking down and there was like some chick who was
That's after.
complaining.
Yeah, that was the
She was
first day
like,
in town. Yeah.
and she was like, "So rock naked." I'm like, what?
I remember that.
I'm
Some
like,
random
what?
lady.
Like just like
That was after we
out
out of ate food or dinner or something.
yeah, yeah.
We're walking back.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? What the hell was that? But
What the hell did we do? No, it's what the hell did we do Thursday?
Thursday, I'm
Explore.
pretty sure. Yeah, yeah. Thursday. Yeah, Thursday we just explored because I want to say that we came in late on like Wednesday.
I swear we drove. I swear we drove
or
into the
was
city.
it Thursday? Or was it
I
Thursday?
swear we drove into the city the same day.
Okay, yeah,
I swear
thought-
to God,
yeah.
because we got. I
Okay,
thought
yeah.
we got in with just
Yeah, we
enough.
did. It was Thursday. It was
Yeah.
Thursday.
I thought we
Yeah.
did just
I thought
enough
so.
daylight and hours to do
Mhm.
JFK
Yeah,
and
yeah.
eat.
Yeah,
WWE shop. We met up at the WWE
That's
shop.
right.
I remember
Mhm.
that. And then from there, we walked around all around
Yeah.
Dallas to JFK
Mhm.
to see
Yeah.
JFK. I remember, and we went to some barbecue place
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
where you
We
guys
had-
checked the score of Pittsburgh. It might have been the March would be
Penguins?
hockey or baseball.
Yeah,
It had to be baseball because
and like
No,
hockey
hockey.
though too.
Hockey.
Man. Yeah.
because
Anyways,
because
I remember that.
because I remember waiting outside to get into 32. I was keeping tabs of the Pirate game that day on Sunday. That was opening day, I believe. So it might have been hockey. Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but I'm trying to jog my memory here.
Hey man, it's been like what 6 years since then.
I can't believe
it's been 6 years.
Yeah, 6 or
no.
Actually, no way.
4 years.
4
or 5.
4 because this year was 36, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay, then 4. Yeah,
4.
Okay.
4.
For some reason,
you could have told me it was 6, and I could have believed you. Right. It felt like 6, but still, it's still a long time ago.
I mean, like, and I tell you that freaking Evolve show was like probably one of the most insane live wrestling experiences I probably have ever had. Eric, I'm sure like for you, constantly going for PWG, that's probably pretty regular. I would imagine, right?
I would say that was still like a better than average show, and probably at that time I would probably rank that above some PWG shows. I felt like although PWG was getting the Garganos, getting the McIntyres, they were getting everybody, the Zack Sabres, the Chris Hero. Before this was like really before a lot of those guys signed with NXT and there was no AEW, and so it was definitely I would still say that Evolve show was great, especially do you remember the was it the 3-on-3 main event, which was like Gargano? God, do you guys remember who was in that? I remember
it was TJ Perkins and it was and like Kodo
Ibushi
versus Ospreay, Aleister Black, who was
I forgot. What was his name?
He was named he was Tommy End. On that,
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and
was it Gargano? Was he in that match? Yeah,
he was.
Yeah, he was somewhere in that match, but so I mean, but that was like one of the craziest. I mean, like I still recall Chris Hero just beating the living shit out of Zack Sabre Jr., which I don't know how he did not sustain any sort of concussions throughout that, because man, those guys were not holding back at all, and
stiff,
just kind of just like mind blown by all of that
and
stuff there.
Mick Foley appeared.
Yeah,
he did that thing. Awesome. Sabu was there.
Yep, Sabu was there.
We were seeing Foley because at that same time you had the Hall of Fame, and he went to that instead.
Yep, yeah, because I think Sting was going in that year.
Yep.
I thought so. So yeah, and then it was just
right, it was that year.
It was just such a freaking fun time, and it was so easy walking everywhere, just because like for when we went for third, fourth, or 35, I mean, like how many subways or
thank God for Google Maps for New York in the subways.
That was a nightmare.
Because if I didn't have that, we would have been so screwed. Because it was like put in okay, from the hotel to Madison Square Garden, whatever, and it told you what time the bus outside the hotel was about to get there around, and we had to schedule too. You got off, where the walk, what subway station to get into, and what train you're getting.
It was way too much thinking.
Can
Only for
I
you.
can I
Yeah.
add on to the
Yes.
evolve? I wanted to say that that time too, 4 years ago, the indies were way stronger than what they are today. And
Yeah.
that was something that we might not see because now there's more opportunities. Now AEW swooping up and gonna sign guys right away. The WWE is gonna they're with NXT, they're gonna want the top indie talent, which they already were, but now with AEW and NXT kind of doing a thing, you're
It's
not
more
going to be able to
competition
see.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not seeing cards like that. Like
No.
I've basically got out of a lot of liking a lot of indie wrestling. I still, will attend a live PWG, but it's nothing like it was before. And you could see like guys are just leaving, rightfully so for the money, which
Mhm.
they should. You want to be on on the WWE.
Yeah, I think the closest of big event indie show was the ROH New Japan show at MSG in New York.
Yeah.
But that had a lot of help with New Japan too.
You take
And
away
And
New Japan, it's nothing.
yeah.
That's nothing.
and then Cody and all of them left ROH right before that.
Mhm.
Um,
And
because
too,
we were contemplating, we were talking about maybe several months before, after Cody and them were leaving to start their own company,
yeah,
to try to sell the tickets, because we're like, why go? But luckily they made in hindsight, luckily they made the show combine, because you have that, and plus it's MSG. It was awesome to go in there and actually
also helped
experience
too.
that.
Also helped too. Takeover was switched to, I believe,
Yes,
on like Friday night, which that I was like, well, okay, we
that
are
was a
definitely
good decision.
So but yeah, I mean, it's just so crazy to actually think about how much things have exactly changed. Um um for you, Eric, when AE W became a thing, what did you think about the company were just when they were just forming everything together there?
Well, I was happy for a new company, but I was kind of like a little worried too because a lot of those guys, and excuse my language, do a lot of really stupid shit. And I was a little worried, like
Mm-hmm.
I like to see the MJFs and I like to see the Cody Rhodes and I like Kenny Omega, but I wanted there to be like a little bit of balance and me with AEW, if people don't know, I'm up and down on AEW. I like it probably the best, but there's
Mm-hmm.
still some things when I watch it when I'm like, oh man, it's just a
such
little
as
too.
such as Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela versus 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 Cole Cabana and the Brody Lee last night,
It's
right?
Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, I don't mind necessarily. Like I've come to accept like the mid card stuff because
Mm-hmm.
in wrestling, there's always been kind of cheesy mid card stuff. But
Right.
when it starts to like push into that main event, and you guys got like guys like Kenny Omega, who's supposed to be like their top guy, doing like matches that are just so ridiculous, that's when I kind of like get like a little more towards that. Like that's not really for me. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, AEW is still, I would say, my favorite wrestling company overall.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. Matt and I mean, like, I know, like, with me, I, I like, I like NXT. It's just with their weekly TV. I'm just not emotionally invested. Whereas with like Dynamite, I feel like that there's more of that can't miss feeling. So to say, I'm not sure if like you guys feel the same way, Matt. I know like you just love NXT
Yeah, I
regardless
mean,
of like how it's built and stuff there.
yeah, I still watch every week. That's my go-to show, because I was invested before. Uh, it's almost, at least for me, a I don't know about
That's your
you. If you
favorite
have
show?
yes.
Okay, I figured so.
Like if you have like a favorite TV show
Mm-hmm.
that you watch and you started, I don't know, binge watching, and you're invested in the show as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for you to like walk away even if you have like a bad season.
Yeah.
So I was invested in the beginning. So, and then on Wednesdays for our live reaction, I watch both. I I probably, if he didn't do the show, I probably would watch both anyways. And
Mm-hmm.
we kind of did that, and I kind of still did that even if we had we did the reaction on our podcast before we did
Right.
the separate
Right.
show. I would
Mm-hmm.
still watch both just to see what's going on, to kind of have that like can't miss thing like the Monday Night Wars were. Like you would flip
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, but
Right.
now with obviously technology, you can do both at the same time.
Right.
So how I watch it, I have my laptop with AEW with the volume down, and on the TV is NXT. Where I'm focusing, because when we do our shows, you're just watching AEW.
Yeah.
I need to be able to hear NXT.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
to have something. So, but I watch both. Like, there's stuff like on both shows that are not necessarily great, but you're going to have that on any show. And there's stuff on AEW I don't like. There's stuff on NXT that's a little bit
Nothing's
sour.
perfect. Yep.
Yeah, nothing's perfect. Yeah, any wrestling show, any TV show. I kind of want both to do good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it comes down to it, yeah, you have that friendly competition, and then some people on Twitter take it way too seriously, which I just want.
Nah, man, are you kidding me? Wrestling wrestling Twitter is by far the most rational group of people.
There's people that are like just straight up like fanboys, like accounts on Twitter of like AEW, and like AEW can't do
Alexa
wrong.
Bliss fan, Alexa Bliss fan,
No,
4,
no,
5, 6,
no,
7, 8.
no.
8,
It's
9, 10.
AEW Ultimate Fan 92.
No. It's AEW's for everyone. 596.
That's it. That's
It's AEW's for everyone. Everyone's inclusive. 596.
That's the other one. That's the other account. And it's like if somebody put a thing of dog crap in a paper bag in the middle of the ring and light it on fire, they would tweet it. It's the greatest thing ever, or something like that. When obviously it's not.
Can I share the difference between AEW and NXT for me?
Yes.
Why I feel like NXT is the safer brand, where they're more like, they go by the more generic wrestling. The guys are trained. They won't do certain things that AEW would do, which works in their benefit, where they still have Triple H and people behind that won't allow them to do something maybe too crazy. Where AEW will, like, the shit will be really stupid or really good because they got this like creative freedom. And I feel like it works in both ways. I feel like when you watch NXT, it's more of that generic wrestling show where all the talent's really good, but there's like that generic way of ending the show. There's the generic storyline. And where AEW's strength, in my opinion, this is just me, is that you kind of don't know what's going to happen. It has that feel like where like the revival will just show up like, or the way the crowd is when there's crowd. Obviously now there isn't. Where like the ending has that like old school WWF WCW feel where it just like ends off this cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like NXT doesn't have that. But they do, they are the more like, I could see why somebody would like it better. It's just not necessarily for me, for
Mm-hmm.
example. That's how I
Yeah,
feel about it.
yeah, and that's pretty much where I'm at too. And it just feels like, like more specifically, with their tag teams are just there's just so much more attention and storylines driven for them. Whereas, hell, WWE, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are kind of guilty of this. They just don't really pay attention to it. It's just kind of there, as 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 Holy Ray said, um I'm convinced he like sees it as like as like a mashed as like mashed potatoes to to his um to his steak there. So it's just how it is, you know.
It really baffles me too, because if you look at the early WWF, like there was a million teams. You had the Hart Foundation, the Road Warriors, the
Mm-hmm.
Demolition, and this was during, they were selling out everywhere and making big money.
Hogan,
And then during,
mm-hmm.
the Hogan era, and then during
The Hogan
the Attitude Era, which was the biggest grossing era, you had the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, who all were
APA.
APA. Yeah, they all were household names. And they were both eras where the WWE/WWF was at its highest. And then when they're at the lowest, their tag teams meant nothing. What, 94, 95? You had the Smoking Guns, the Godwins. None of those teams were doing anything.
Yeah.
And WCW too at its highest when they were making the most. The Outsiders were the most over team. Oh, I forgot to mention the New Age Outlaws in the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
They were established names. So that always baffled me with like Vince not wanting to do tag team, because both of the WWE's biggest drawing eras ever had established tag teams that they weren't main event, but they were big. When the Dudleys faced the Hardys, that was a big
Big
deal.
time stars, man. They were all big time stars, and they were so over too, week after week. Hell, anytime that the that the that the that the freaking Outlaws came out, you just heard a freaking roar of of ovation. And like I first got into wrestling probably in like '98, and like I was just like, well, like first of all, I was petrified of fucking Kane and like Taker at the time. Just I mean, I mean like I mean like like Mystery Taker was just terrifying as an 8-year-old John. So but it's just like when I watch that then compared to especially now, it's just definitely the connection with the crowd and just how just emotionally invested that everyone was with these characters. And it's just, obviously it's freaking night and day compared to back then.
The crowds have changed too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they've got, instead of more younger and now to more teenage, young adult type of crowds.
Mm-hmm.
At times, obviously the product direction has changed from, I don't know, mid 2000s
Mm-hmm.
to now, obviously. So I don't know. We're never going to get back to that high point. Because you always hear there's more people that don't watch wrestling than do. because you can in this day and age you can never get to how, what's the word I'm looking for, like graphic, you could say, for the lack of a better term, the Attitude Era was. I would say at most you could probably get away with the Ruthless Aggression Era, early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean,
minus some of the stuff they did.
Especially now. I mean, like,
yeah,
I mean, with everything going on right now, they can do a quarter of the shit.
Yeah, I feel like anytime they try to push the limit, either depending if it fits or not, you always get people go, "Oh, that's stupid." They're being edgy for the sake of being edgy, but at the same time, you want people to want them to get a little bit more edgy. But when they do, it's like, oh, they're just doing it for the sake.
You know what I always get a trip out of when people are like, "Oh, go back and watch the Attitude Era, or go back and watch the '80s. It wasn't that good." The bottom line is, it was a different era in wrestling, and you look at that crowd, and you can't tell me that crowd wasn't getting what they wanted. Like, people were high-fiving and screaming and hugging in the crowd. If you watch, let's go 98 WWF or 99 or, 97, 96 WCW, that crowd, when the NWO came out or when the glass shattered for either company, that crowd was like nuts. It was like a party. Yeah. And wrestling isn't always about having 5-star matches. It's about creating moments, getting you emotionally invested, making you wanted to turn into the shows. And I mean, they were doing 7 million viewers on a Monday night with no DVR. No DVR. People couldn't watch it later. People had to watch it live. Or they had 7 million. They could record. VHS could record.
Yeah, but
that
still
wasn't a big thing, though. That wasn't that was a very small thing compared to like DVR and the internet and being able to watch on YouTube.
And that's almost what hurts, and not hurts, but now is that if you miss something, you can go back, you can watch it tomorrow. Now I don't know how that goes in the ratings. Obviously, it's not.
There's a different set of ratings.
Yeah, that's, I don't know how much that helps or hurts, but it's different now because a lot of people, like, you have your streaming sites, like you can watch TV on your laptop, like Comcast. Excuse me, Comcast out here. You could have the Xfinity. You can stream. You could pretty much see everything.
Same with Spectrum.
Yeah. So people can just on demand, or like WWE, they used to have, and I don't know if they still do, but like you can watch a condensed version of Raw on Hulu, for God's sakes. So if you missed something, or you didn't want to sit through 3 hours or 2 hours at the time, you could just watch an hour and a half and get the gist of what's happening. I mean, society, I mean, we're just programmed to not to fast forward stuff and just get stuff instantly in tidbits. Like, look on YouTube, you can have AEW, I think AEW and WWE do this. They have like the top 10 or the top 5 moments of the show the last night or whatever. If you don't have time, you can just watch 10 minutes of highlights and be like, okay, I'm caught up from last week. I'm good to go. So, and you don't have to sit and watch the whole show.
No.
So, and another analogy, if you don't mind, is I think like late night talk shows, like back in the day when you had like the Tonight Show with Carson. Like, he was obviously the only game in town, but everybody watched at 11:30, right? Because there was, back then, at least in the start, there's no VHS. I forget when they actually got really popular, but regardless, everybody watched. You have to watch that, so you talk about, oh, did you see so and so on now?
Yeah,
on the show last night. But now like talk shows now, I'm just thinking like Jimmy Fallon on Tonight Show.
Podcasts to me like a podcast to me have like completely just sort of taken away a lot of these talk shows um um in importance or luster, so to say, just because like
And
when you would
yeah,
want like say a like comedian or someone on, I mean, like if you follow Rogan or like whoever, he's gonna have someone on his podcast. And where to me with that platform there is like it's like nowhere near as
yeah,
scripted and shit. So
and
You know what?
plus, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know what I miss about wrestling,
mhm.
and we all know it's a work and it's a shoot, but it was cool seeing your character and not knowing who they really are. And like when you saw the Undertaker, all you knew him as was the Undertaker. This was inevitable, going to end, but this is just something. This was going to end. When you see Bray Wyatt, when you're a 10-year-old kid, you go on his Instagram and he has a picture of his baby and himself, and that character, as you could see multiple things. I thought it was cool, and that's why I like MJF so much, because when you see MJF on TV, you see MJF on Twitter. You
Mhm.
see the same guy. You see the MJF who's on TV, he's the same guy as he is on Instagram. He
Yeah.
lives that gimmick. And that's what
Would
I think, that's what I really appreciate about that. Like I kind of like that, and I'm a little old school with that, with kayfabe. And I
mhm.
don't have anything against the specials or anything, but I do think it's kind of cool with certain people. And I think MJF,
Yeah,
as the last dude I could really think that really stays into character.
yeah. I give people more points if they can be dedicated to the character, and it's always funny when people like get upset if they do something like out in real life. I'm like, you know that most likely he's still playing the character and at least trying to. And
Mhm.
people get offended if you have a heel do something bad. Then they go
Hell,
like, oh, I'm
do
sorry.
you recall
It's
when
like,
when MJF pissed off some kid's dad, and and like he got so mad, dad, he like tagged him Cody, Tony Khan, and everyone, like wanting a refund and shit. I'm like, dude, like you got worked so bad. Like, how do you not see that? Like he's portraying a
yeah.
a a persona. Like
And people, and just in some stuff that wrestlers like, post or say on social media,
right.
and like half the time I just assume it's a work, and then some people just get worked up and take stuff and run. I'm like, you're doing exactly what they want you to do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why like, some of the stories that come out, and like even like the Ronda Rousey stuff that was recent, I'm like, I if she
She
if
worked
she
every
actually
single woman in that locker room.
if she actually said that, right, and it was her own thought, would you think she would still be in like she's still under contract, right? Is she still
Yeah,
under contract?
she's still
She
under
would
contract.
be like released because she pretty much like
Shit.
destroyed the wrestling company, and
She buried every single
on
woman there. So
unless everybody else went along with it
Mhm.
and it just wanted to continue and worked as too. Like it's a good story because we all
She
know wrestling is choreographed and predetermined, right? We all know the insides. Like everybody knows how pretty much everything works, like 95% of it. So it works that she can crap on the business
Mhm.
in that point from her point of view because it seems more real.
Hey, she's not trying to be a like a cosplay wrestler.
Okay, Cody.
Okay.
You know what's so
No.
great about
Cordy,
the Ronda
Kevin
thing?
Cornette.
Cody,
damn it.
Cody Cornette.
You know what's so great about the Ronda thing is that's exactly how Dana White feels about wrestling, and it pisses wrestling fans off. And that's why she went there. Ronda went to a PWG multiple times. She loves wrestling, and
Oh, yeah.
she knows what pisses people off. And Dana White has that like attitude, so she's playing that stereotypical MMA person who looks down on wrestling for being scripted, and that pisses wrestling fans off. And that's what was so good about that.
And like on top of that, she talked of Pelican Hogan's one tweet from like I think back in 2010 where he was like referencing working smart marks and everything. It was just hilarious and
Yeah,
one
and if
of my favorite
yeah, and if she hated wrestling, she wouldn't have gotten the jacket from Piper,
right,
and took his gimmick pretty much and embraced that.
pretty good
people,
friends
like,
too
People were
with
stupid.
The Rock on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, she went to a PWG.
Right.
Who goes to a PWG if you hate wrestling? A
I don't.
PWG. Come on, a PWG. Like,
then-
she's been to them.
And then I think either before she said that stuff, I think it was before that. I think it was Cain Velasquez. I think had a meeting at headquarters up in Stanford. So like, if she hated wrestling, I don't think she would go to McMahon, which obviously she probably met with Vince, and then go on somebody's podcast and just rip to shreds the company.
No.
Doesn't make any sense. And unless Vince McMahon pissed her off, she probably would have called him out, but she didn't. So
No.
it's a
Ronda,
people.
she doesn't really. She really doesn't sugarcoat shit. She'll just come out.
And that's a
and
good
say it.
thing. And then her
So
stuff
it's
is
like-
great when when she got like super Roman Rainey real quick when she was a face. That's like,
Yeah.
and the crowd started to turn.
Right.
Then they turned her in such a way that she played up to it.
It was
and
so
it worked.
natural too. It was so
It was
natural.
a seamless transition from her coming out and like smiling and being a good thing. Then she used that to her advantage, which to me worked. Leading up to Mania, it was good. She was getting booed when she came out at Mania,
Legitimately, which I mean, definitely impressive on her end.
which yeah, and it was just funny how the year before, it was the year before in New Orleans, her and Angle wrestled, and everybody was like amazed and praised her for the match because that was so
Honestly,
good.
I compared her to a like Angle because man, she picked this thing up so quickly and so easily. It's just like wow. Like, I was stunned how good just even from that there and how she performed it.
Yeah, and
How
her
did you feel
promos
on
got better. And real quick, I'm sorry. And
Okay,
then
yeah,
once she got that heel persona, her promos got better because she just ripped into people. She didn't have to play that baby face. She just pretty much almost work shoot, if you will, and it was great. And it just pissed people off. That's what you want.
I think Ronda Rousey has that Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, Vince McMahon, where they're not the best people. So when they go off and they tell people how they really kind of feel and they're huge stars, you see the person, they're obviously overdoing it, but they're kind of that person anyways. So it's like that was the real Ronda Rousey, and everybody likes people in wrestling now. At least I noticed with a lot of people until they become the favorite. People like the underdog. People like to cheer that, but once more people start going for him, it's like, oh my God, she's this and that. She's not an underdog. We don't like her anymore. And
Right.
people want that
It's-
underdog, and that's one of my big beefs with
it's almost in a
wrestling.
way like a Roman Reigns. You find out, okay, they're making him the guy.
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't want him.
Yeah.
We don't want another. We don't want that star. We want Daniel Bryan, or we want insert name here.
A like Becky Lynch in the case of like Ron.
Yeah. And then at the same time, everybody was behind Becky, and regardless of storyline or not, she was getting pushed. And I would see people on Twitter, a lot just throughout all the other accounts and stuff, saying they're complaining that it's Becky and she's not as good, and let's get somebody else, or et cetera, et cetera. And I just sit back and go, I go back like a year and a half ago, she was like the hottest thing and everybody wanted her. And now that you got her and she's getting pushed, she's being that star, it's like, oh, she's not that good. We want other people too. You
As
can't win.
Daniel Bryan
You can't
said,
win.
As Daniel Bryan said,
Is it the F word?
pickle.
And that was
Pickle.
that had a McMahon like thing back there, and he was almost right.
No doubt.
Fickle, damn it.
I mean, that's like what like the smart mark wrestling fans have become. Like, it used to be like that early ROH. People would beg for somebody to be champ, but then when he won too much, the crowd would turn on him, and then the new hot guy would come in, and then the crowd would turn on him.
That's almost the problem with today's fans overall.
That's why you can't create another star. If Stone Cold won too much, Stone Cold, Hulk Hogan, all those guys had to be protected a lot and bury people. And wrestling fans, the term buried gets thrown around on everything.
Imagine Bruno Sammartino's reign today. He would be blasted and hated because he's burying everybody. We need another star. But back then, obviously, when wrestling was seen as legit, he was the greatest thing because, oh my God, he's beating all these people. He's amazing. Like New England Patriots in football, like they're a dynasty. They always make it to the playoffs. They're winning championships. It's like that. But with the Patriots, you get people that hate them because they're winning too much. And kind of the same thing with wrestling now, but like now you can't have a long title reign over a year with maybe some exceptions.
CM Punk, that I think was probably one of the actual few title reigns where people were not clamoring for him to actually lose. Yeah.
I was gonna say that with CM Punk, he wasn't closing out the shows. He was the champion, but it didn't really. Who was the other? Who was the Was he the Raw champion? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Who was the SmackDown champion?
It wasn't Mark Henry. I think it was.
It was Mark Henry.
I think it was a combination of him and Daniel Bryan maybe at the time.
It still felt like, even though Punk was the champion, that John Cena was the bigger match.
Was that around 28 when it was Raw versus Cena 1? When CM Punk was champion?
No, CM Punk was like 20.
Or is that the
2012?
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of his second reign when he was losing to The Rock at 29 when he lost that Rumble. Because he had the second time and he lost to The Rock going into 29.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking that. His first one. You talk about his first one. Is this the him and around the time him and Cena had Money in the Bank?
Well, I'm talking about after that when him and Payman.
Before.
Wait, are you talking about before that? I was talking about him and Heyman, where he did the longest run. Remember, he surpassed everybody.
And then he
I was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like because
Okay, yeah.
like because like he was champion. I would say
I forget who was. I forget.
he was champion for
Yeah.
I believe like 14 or maybe 15 months, which I believe was like the longest title reign in like 20 plus years
Yeah,
or
but
so.
at the same time with that, if I'm remembering correctly, it didn't seem like it was overbearing. Like
No.
at least
He didn't.
it worked for him.
Mhm.
At least with Heyman, it was. I think he was one of the few people that happened to that everybody like universally liked because he cut that pipe bomb promo, and he was the chosen one from the fans, but he wasn't. He was still being kind of opposed, maybe in the way, if I'm remembering
He
correctly,
didn't
from
feel like the main guy on the show. Still,
right.
he was
Yeah.
the champion, but
He
it
wasn't
still
getting thrown
was
down
like,
your throats.
yeah, it was. But
How-
it was still like he wouldn't always main event the shows. He was
Mhm.
the guy underneath. So it was kind of like they played it like he was the champion, but they really didn't want him to be champion. So it was kind of like, we like CM Punk, he deserves better. So it gave that crowd that like he deserves
Yeah, he was
better
always
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
against the authority figures in a way Stone Cold was in the Attitude Era. In a way, I mean, not that caliber, obviously, but that's the closest analogy I could come up with, where he was still not the authorities guy, you know, but he was the people's guy.
Yeah.
It had that different dynamic. It's almost the exception rather than the rule now.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah,
have
like-
that anti-hero kind of person
Mhm.
now for it to work. And that was almost what, to go back to Becky Lynch, at least that first 2/3 of her run when she was building, that's what was working in the way.
I think like with her more so than anything else, she suffered from just having terrible opponents after she won, and her towering just sort of sputtered, and that's when the things started turning on her. You know,
I think it didn't help when the stuff that was written for her and Seth when they were together.
Ooh,
Oh.
yeah, that was bad.
That's didn't help.
Eric
I think
was Eric was like, John, what the hell is this?
that was kind of like the moment that was like for a lot
It's
of
a tough
people.
sell. Yeah, it's a tough sell.
Even though it is real life and they are together, but what they were doing on screen, it didn't work. Like on paper, it's one of those situations that I could bet that if you read it on paper, it's going to work. Then when you put them on TV, it kind of just it didn't connect, and it didn't have that. It didn't work out.
No.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, to go back to your point, John. Yeah, maybe some of the opponents after weren't the best thing. I mean, it's obviously not her fault. And I'm still mad what they did with Lacey. I think they screwed her up in the beginning because she was like her next opponent after Mania, right?
It was like far too soon.
You know what?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go.
You know what I think's a problem too is Ronda Rousey was really over with the casuals. The problem is when you go to the events, the people that want to hijack the shows are the marks, the smarks, who go to the shows, who get drunk, who are the most loud and the most passionate about it, and then the casual people see it and they're like, "Man, nobody likes Ronda Rousey," and that has an effect. That has an effect because the people that go to the shows and that are the loudest are not the casual fans. They go to have a good time. Those, cheer their people. But there's definitely, and I could speak because I was kind of one of those people at one time, would go to the shows, drink and just be the loudest, and everybody starts it. And then those people may view like their opinions are, and it makes it seem like on a crowd that Ronda is not liked at all. But in fact, she's liked. It's just her fans are not going to be as vocal because those are more people coming over from the UFC, people that look up to Ronda for, you know, everything she's done for women athletics. But they're not going to go to a wrestling show and be like, I'm going to boo the other person until they like Ronda. And I think that's where it is. And there's a certain aspect of that fandom and wrestling where it gives that falsification of somebody not being liked.
And I think that, in a way, hurts actually for people to actually be a true heel, because
those days are over.
Yeah. With exceptions, you have an MJF. You had a Ciampa when he turned on Gargano. Like, the crowd, obviously, as fans, liked him, but they booed the crap out of him there. So, and maybe I'm missing, you know, a few others, but everybody's smart enough to know, hey, they're not that bad. I still like them. I'm still gonna cheer them because they're good at being the bad guy. It's hard to do now because we always have this. At least sometimes me and John have this. This comes up. Either it's go away Heat, or
Baron Corbin.
Maybe
Baron Corbin. Oh.
I still think he's one of. I'm going to say, even though, you know, I know you don't like him, I think he's one of the best heels because at least he gets a reaction and gets people to hate him. He might not be the best, like when you compare him to like an MJF, he'd probably bottom of the list, but he's still up there on getting a reaction. It's better to get a reaction and people to boo than not get anything at all. And I mean, his work is not the best, but people still hate him, and at least he's doing somewhat of a good job of what he's giving. They got to get rid of the King gimmick. I think that's ran his course, but overall, I think he's up there with being a true heel, if you will.
I was gonna say I haven't seen enough of his work as of late to really have that strong of opinion, but I think like the go away, like you put Vince Russo in AEW, he would get heat more than Baron Corbin. Now, does that mean that
Jim Cornette?
Does that mean that like Vince Russo is like really talented at getting heat, or does that mean that he's so bad that people just don't want to see him? Like, that's where, like, the counter argument would be on that. That's right. Where, like, you're playing that, like, if I went on WWE TV, no talent, and I was like, I'm better, and people see me, I'm a fucking toothpick, and people would be like, I hate that guy. He's skinny, he's loudmouth. Like, I could get that kind of heat to a certain extent. That's where you kind of, like, play, like, is Baron Corbin that good, or is he so bad that, and I couldn't answer that because I don't watch enough to have a strong opinion.
The writing, at least in my opinion, of storylines, the writing he's been doing, I think doesn't help him. I think the King stuff, I think, like I said, ran its course.
To me, the only person who really pulled that off is King.
Yes.
Because
it was so obnoxious, with her and Charmel. It worked. Like,
Owen Hart did a good job.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Sure.
I think the King, at least for Baron Corbin, ran his course. If he went away for a bit and came back like he was when he first, like, in NXT, I think it would work. Like, that kind of gimmick, or his original character.
He's just so cartoony to a certain extent as well. I feel like people would just stop taking him serious.
I think the King stuff doesn't help, and then because he was the one that started the Shorty G thing with Chad Gable, and they stuck with it. So he's going to forever. I forever dislike whoever gave him that line for him to say that, and that stuck. But see, and I think it's a fine line between, like we said, that kind of heat.
That's a very debatable conversation. It's a very like, and maybe that's the only way you can get heat now for the most part. Maybe that's not the worst thing, because it is better if they're booing you. You know, like Matt Riddle pins Baron Corbin, crowd would go crazy. No doubt about it, because Baron Corbin represents the WWF and what people don't like. WWE. I still call it WWF. I'm old fart.
Some pandas are going to come to your house.
They're going to lawsuit. But the WWE and Matt Riddle represents like the NXT, represents a different aspect. And I feel like that might not be the worst thing. Yeah. Against what represents the WWE. The same reason John Cena worked so good against CM Punk. It was you had two different. John Cena represented the WWE kiddie era and everything that the people who didn't like what the WWE became. CM Punk represented the guy that everybody wanted, the people that John Cena and many fans' eyes were squashing. So when you built that up, I think wrestling needs more opposites and not everybody the same. You need that real life, like one side of the fan base being like, we like John Cena because he's a superstar, and the other fan base being like, no, you're a WWE sheep. We all know CM Punk is better. And I really miss that in wrestling. And I think that in some ways Baron Corbin might do that. He might represent the WWE in that aspect, but I haven't seen enough to really
given the right story, a better gimmick for him. And I think he needs to like at this point, like, this is going to sound terrible, but like a small injury that keeps him off TV or something. I don't want him to get hurt, but the heart makes the whatever the fondness makes the heart grow, whatever that saying is.
He might test for COVID on where you might get your wish.
I don't want him to get COVID, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't want anybody to get sick. But if we got a break from him, at least the King gimmick, and then he came back and did something with a better something to get more momentum, it would. I think it can help, because I've seen countless times with something's not going somebody's way, and then you tweak something, you change something, and it works. It gets traction. I don't want to compare the two, but like the New Day, when they first started, I remember even sitting at a show here in Pittsburgh, and they came out.
I was there.
Yeah, I'm not the one to be negative, but I remember when they came out, I just went, "Oh my God, these guys again!"
And they got booed. They got booed out of the building.
Nobody liked the gimmick, but guess what? They changed something. They turned him like face, and it's arguably one of their biggest tag teams they've had in recent history.
Yeah, they're definitely
merch
money, and I'm not overly a fan of the whole like gimmick, but I can't deny how successful they are.
They found something and people ate it up, like the booty-os, the pancake stuff, something that if you've read it on paper and looking, oh, this would never get over, it's stupid, it somehow it worked, and they're making money, they're selling merch, and good on them.
So the grown man with the unicorns in their head.
Yeah, unicorn, but it worked. How many times I sat there and go, how I like it, but how do I like it? Why do I like it? How is it working?
It definitely worked.
Eric, did you see Undertaker's last ride finale? What'd you think of it?
I actually I'm late and I finished it up. Man, that ending where you hear Gorilla calling the Undertaker and you see all, it definitely brought back memories because the Undertaker in the beginning, when he beat Hogan when I was a kid, I was devastated. And I still remember that. Ric Flair comes in with the chair.
Mhm.
Come on.
Mhm.
But anyways, yeah, the Undertaker's been such a part of WWF, WWE history. I mean, he's done it all. He's can't say enough great things. I mean, changed his gimmick. He was the original Undertaker, the Dead Man, and then he became eventually evolved that character shortly after, like nobody else has.
Mhm.
And then he became the American Badass, which was amazing. No, wait, not American Badass. He was Ministry Undertaker and then American Badass.
Yeah.
And I loved them all. And even,
Mhm.
seeing him at peace and seeing him go out the way he deserves is definitely great. And definitely hit me. The ending hit me.
Yep.
The ending hit me.
Yeah. I mean, like you
If you
just.
yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, like, just like seeing this, you just see just why he was so great. Why no one ever talks any shit on the Undertaker. Just that he is what like he is what like Roman City is. He is the godfather of wrestling. Just like he is the one. He is the one constant, the guy who will call it how he sees it, and why he was essentially deemed a locker room leader and such, and just how he was
Massive
just
storyteller.
massive storyteller. Just
Incredible.
like
Yeah.
in like I mean like he couldn't make anything work. I mean, like he was facing guys such as Giant Gonzalez, and I mean, like God, and I mean, God bless him, but man, some of those earlier manias, he was just giving trash, and like he made something out of it. I mean, like I mean, some of them were pretty bad, but he was always that constant and easily, in my opinion, by far the greatest character ever. I don't think that there is really any debate about that, in my opinion.
Yeah, somebody who's been pretty much active for 30 straight years, just keeping the same character but morphing it with the times.
Right.
That's I don't think we're ever gonna see that.
No.
No, those
Again?
days are over. Those days are
Yeah.
over. Wrestling's become something different than when the Undertaker got in, and that
Yeah.
is with many of those wrestlers. That's why I appreciate the Jake Roberts, the Undertakers, the all those guys, because shit's just not like that anymore. Like it's just a different business. You know, it's just different.
Yeah. But if you didn't get emotional at the end of that documentary, you're not human.
No.
Or not a wrestling fan
No.
overall. Like if you didn't feel something, yeah. But I think the Boneyard match, if that is his last
Hopefully.
match,
Hopefully.
I think it was a good way. Just the ending of that match with him riding off into the darkness, not the sunset, the darkness, which fits him perfectly. I think that was a good last image of him in a prominent wrestling role. Yeah, so
And
I
like,
wanted to add on to, if you don't mind, John. I wanted to add on to you about the Undertaker. He faced a lot of big wrestlers, and they kind of gave him the Hulk Hogan booking when he turned babyface, where they put like giants versus him. But it wasn't about like his match; it was about the little things he did, the sitting up, Paul Bear with the urn, the eyes roll back, the walking the rope. He made every movement. You felt his movement. As a fan, it was something we've never seen. It was he was that character. and it was like nothing else. And it wasn't about him having great matches in the early. It was about him establishing a uniquely different character that we've never seen and putting it on a level. And then he rose to, getting better in the ring while still being a top guy and constantly getting better. He could have just sat back and not gotten better because he was going to be a top guy. He wouldn't have lasted as long, but his passion and his love for wrestling and the opportunity that he got to be the Undertaker.
And what helped him is just obviously with his size for this, but how he worked in the ring. He wasn't obviously he's big. He wasn't a high flyer doing the crazy moves that have the high risks to him. He was more grounded, ground and pound. He played that big guy character well, and at the same time infused the Undertaker gimmick into it. So for him, that helped his longevity because like guys now with doing all this crazy stuff are not going to be able to presumably last as long as a length of career.
Him and I think it was Randy Orton talked this up too a few weeks ago, and they're absolutely right. It's just like too many guys are too infatuated with the athleticism part of the.
There's too many people that do it,
and they're all the same. And it used to be when I first watched indie wrestling, I was so in awe of this, and I was like, I've never seen anything like it. And my worry about like that style wrestling, it's becoming the norm. So now guys are going to have to evolve into characters and do more. You could still do that because that's
injuries
the style,
too.
But it's becoming the norm. Like there was a time where that wasn't normal. So when you first saw it, you were like, this is incredible. We've never seen this. Now it's the generic way of wrestling. So now we're going to have to evolve.
Like everybody, like almost every match is, you always hear the announcers say Tupe Suicida or Suicide Dive. Like everybody does a suicide dive.
Canadian Destroyers.
Yes, and that never finishes a match except for like twice. Dustin Rhodes and I think Adam Cole.
Or these stupid choreographed waiting for someone to fall off.
That was the worst part of that Luchasaurus Wardlow match last night.
3 separate times.
I think 3 in a row. Like at that point, after the second time, it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. If I'm gonna fall for it again, I'm a complete dumbass. Like move out of the way. Like just move.
What do you think about the leg slapping?
There's a lot of times that you hear it, but they cut the camera cuts in the right thing that you really don't see it as much, because there's a lot of times that I would hear it and I would always miss it. Like, wait, what they hit? That to me is not as bad, but if they do it like obvious and it's just like, then like you got to do it in a way that.
Oh, oops.
Wait, what'd you say?
I didn't say anything. I said Young Bucks tend to do that, and I like the Young Bucks.
Oh, yes. Like, and the same thing with, and to get off not to get on the Young Bucks, but this is in general, but like the super kick, like everybody associates a super kick with the Young Bucks, but like everybody does a super kick. Like, that is not as unique now anymore. Like Shawn Michaels, like there was the Sweet Chin Music. That's a super kick that finished people. Now everybody super kicks everybody, and it doesn't do a damn thing. Essentially,
Usos super kick everyone, and like it's and the thing with that is it's not even a setup move for them. It's like, oh, I'm just trying to
We're just gonna kick everybody for craps and giggles.
Right, exactly.
So I feel like that happens with moves in wrestling throughout the time. Like Jake Roberts had the DDT that finished. Protected. Yeah. Now it's just as common as a punch. So, and then super kick now, is as common as a DDT. Like
Well, the
everybody does
stunner
it.
protected, the rock bottom protected.
Yeah.
They would kick out, but the only people that would kick out of those moves were the big guy in a big match. It wasn't some schmo on some some schmo on AEW who you never heard of. Yeah, Kenny Omega, who's doing the V trigger on you and he kicks out. Like, that is the most ridiculous thing. And then Meltzer goes on this rant like, oh, you got to understand, Ric Flair did that in the 80s. Dude, come on, bro. Like, that's so completely different. And he tries to take stuff, and that's a little bit of shooting. He takes stuff into context, out of context to try to prove his point. The Kenny Omega is a prime example of something that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I mean, and to like I recall when he faced a like jobber. I think it was like back in like March, and that thing went almost like 15 minutes. I'm like, why in the hell is this going so freaking long?
And the dude was kicking out of everything. He was kicking out of Omega's everything, bro.
Like, there's a way to do it. Like, yes, you're trying to build people, but not everybody needs to win a match, and not every match has to go 20 minutes or 15 minutes.
And not just that.
Go ahead.
Which I like. I'm thinking now they're finally understanding. Hey, like we can't make everyone look good because like then who's going to actually stand out from your show then if everyone is exactly the same.
If everybody's equal, then nobody can lose.
Yeah, not everybody could be Michael Jordan. If everybody was Michael Jordan wouldn't be special. If everybody was Steve Austin wouldn't be special. No. And not just that, there's a whole new crowd of people turning on TNT. Not just the people that know who Kenny Omega is, the people who know who Chris Jericho is, who want to see it. And then they see Kenny Omega against this dude that's like a jobber. And Kenny Omega, you've been told he's the best wrestler in the world. Mm-hmm. And you constantly see the other dude kick out of all his shit. Not a good look.
At least for me, and I mean, until AEW, I barely saw Kenny Omega, like, either not really on TV and barely in person, maybe with an exception. I don't know. But like, if I'm sitting back and just trying to look at it objectively, like, I hear all the talk of Kenny Omega this, Kenny Omega that over in New Japan.
He's been very overhyped ever since signing with
it's like underwhelming. It's like, is this the big mega superstar that I heard? Like, to me, it's like AEW,
or is it Kenny Olivier?
A little bit of both. I mean, a little bit of both, Cornette. So it's like, I think at least AEW, like right now, up to his point, has not done him justice. Because, I mean, I don't know if he's the best character or what have you, but he could be good in the ring. But there's nothing that's at least happened consistently make me think, oh, he is the king of 5-star matches. He's Meltzer's wet dream.
And if we're being completely honest, Hangman to me has really stood out way more than Kenny has, and I don't think it's really even close.
Hangman's got this drunk cowboy gimmick, and he has like more character. And at least to me, Omega's kind of just there. He's like
part of it is the way Omega views wrestling too, though. I feel like Kenny Omega, if he really wanted to, could go out there and do that. But Kenny Omega's kind of on the belief that, like, wrestling is fun and that, like, He likes to
I'm
help
watching
other
a
people.
Cornette experience.
Yeah, I'm sounding like Jim Cornette now.
I was hearing
all fun and games. Like, no, he kind of views like he views wrestling a little differently than I do. And I like Kenny Omega. I have the cleaner shirt. I liked him in New Japan. I saw him in PWG and I geeked out. Like, I'm a big Kenny Omega fan, but I feel like what he wants to do in AEW is different than I necessarily want to see him do.
Like his women's division. What?
God, he
Except
is the
Brit.
worst booker of the God. Like just how they did that whole thing at the very beginning with freaking Riho.
How in God on God's green earth, in your first championship match, you're gonna have Riho that's as skinny as this arm here, beating Nia Rose,
like super heavyweight.
Yeah, that beats Nia Rose, which is a transgender wrestler, right? So and
who has at least 100 pounds on her, by the way.
Transgender who. This is not condemning. Used to be a guy, right? Now is a girl. There's nothing wrong with that for anybody.
She should have been the champ.
Yes, right off the bat. Look at the size. You destroy Riho, and you just book as a dominant champion, and then you build somebody else up to eventually overcome that champion, and then you make that other person right off the bat. They didn't do that. They had Riho. Right.
Which I believe she was champion for at least 3 or 4 months, and damn, man,
has she been like the longest champion they had?
And she was getting no reaction.
She
was getting no reaction,
and she wasn't on like all the time.
Well, yeah, and like on top of that, she was there like maybe once or twice every single month. I'm like, if she's not going to even be on TV, like, why is she even champion? Like, it just made no sense. And then now, like, with everyone else, like, everyone just feels just that they shouldn't be really on TV right now. Like I mean, you see girls such as Chris Statlander, Big Swole. I mean, like, to me, the only thing I enjoy week to week now is by far Britt Baker.
She's the best thing, one of the best things on that program,
and that is just strictly from a like a character standpoint. Just because man, some of her matches, they're pretty rough. So she's still pretty green, but she at least has something. Whereas anyone else in there, you're like searching, trying to find someone who has that it factor in. And to this point, we really haven't seen.
You got AEW is the superior tag division, NXT and WWE superior women's division.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
That's if you want tag team, you got AEW. If you want women, you got NXT / main roster, if you will, just group as a whole group.
Right.
But NXT specifically, with at least their storylines with the women, are much better than obviously AEW at this point.
More thought out.
Yeah, honestly, there's no start and stop. That's AEW. Just seems like stuff happens at random in that division.
And like on top of that, injuries, especially for
that doesn't help.
AEW, have been really hurting them because they just lost Chris Statlander because she tore her ACL. Obviously Baker, she I think tore her meniscus or something. So like it's just between that help, and just bad creative direction have not done them any favors whatsoever. So
I can't name, like, I know it's early yet. I can't name like one big moment in that women's division off the top of my head. The only thing is it's Britt Baker and getting tossed in trash.
Anything that she's doing week to week, where at least that stuff is at least entertaining.
And I give her credit when it first happened, when she first turned, right? I think we both said it wasn't good, but they stuck to it, and she got better, and now she's the best thing, one of the best things on that show. So
that's her and like Tony Schiavone are just perfect together.
Yes, they've worked it out.
I think too, though, it's not AEW's fault. The talent is just, it's hard for them too in the women's division. The WWE does have, I mean, WWE has the best women wrestlers in the history of women wrestling, in my opinion. Yeah. This is I may not like other stuff, but these
top to bottom,
they're all. I mean, they're all pretty incredible workers, and they're really good. For the most part. There's probably a couple here in the WWE, but the most part, you take two women out of the WWE and you put them in AEW, and they could even be lower level women which are in the WWE. They would shine in AEW.
But by far, I mean, could you imagine a like Sasha Banks in AEW?
Yeah, she's incredible. All of them.
Right. It just like they just have a bunch of people there who just really should not be on TV right now, and that's their biggest problem right now.
Yeah, there's not enough credible people yet.
I mean, experience too.
Does AEW need a developmental?
I think so. I mean, it wouldn't hurt them, but the problem is too, they are such a freaking small and like a young company too.
I think that's what primarily their dark TV show is in a way.
It is, right. Yeah. You're right. That's what that is, because it gives them experience without the pressure
in front of a crowd.
Yeah,
and it's YouTube, and I mean, not a lot of people watch it, but maybe enough. The diehards of the diehards watch it,
and it gives them experience. I don't watch it either. It gives them experience.
It was like NXT before they got on the network and all that stuff. That you would only a select few people actually like. Not everybody could see it as it is now. Or even FCW and stuff. I mean that's the exception, because WWE is big enough and they could take these smaller promotions and make them their own feeder system.
Like Evolve,
like Evolve, which who knows what
they're
the
done.
status of them.
They have been deleted as
COVID killed them.
Yeah, and man, I tell you guys, with COVID now,
that's WWE stuff said.
I mean, what is going to happen? I mean, if WWE is forced to basically, if they're forced to actually shut down, and same thing with AEW. I mean, I do wonder what sort of impact that might possibly have if they're forced to sit out, say, 3 or 4 weeks.
I think it might be almost beneficial. I mean, you take a break in I don't know, because who knows when like actual arena shows will start up again.
It's gonna be a while.
And if they do, it's not going to be full capacity. It's probably going to be like 50% and only like 6 feet apart. It's like maybe every other seat or every 2 seats, what have you. And at least it'd be something. It's still not going to be the same, but at least you have fans. And the thing there is, if you do have a show, and you got to have people to wear everyday people have to wear masks. And if what happens if a fan gets sick or somebody gets sick in an arena show, then you're not dealing with just
PR, awful
the PR. You're just not dealing with in-house like what they're doing right now. Obviously, however you think of how they're handling it, it's all in-house, right? It's all somewhat controlled. right, at their performance center. When you get to a public forum like an arena in a city, especially let's say if you go, at least to talk now out west in the South, where everybody's saying the cases are getting
Increasing.
higher,
Yeah.
then how you deal with that? Like, it's a big, I don't know, it's a weird thing. It might not be. I can easily see no shows until next year in an arena.
Well, and not just that, there's people that are waiting for something to happen because they disagree with this situation of them even running a show. So you run a show and more people do it. This is becoming very political. And this is becoming, and especially with elections and like Khan speaking out, and like we're in a way deeper thing than anything. So like if they run a show with half capacity and there's people there and people turn with COVID, like, I mean, this is going to be all over, like, in the worst PR that you could handle. So you got to really, really be careful.
Yeah.
Like, it's
just the what sucks is the politics of everything, because you have obviously the protests and everything across the country, stuff in Seattle, which is just nuts. And I really don't know what's going on, because I just try to like stay off of social media as much, because you get on Twitter, you scroll through, and it's just all negative stuff, and then like I'm like, yeah, nope, I'm done. And then like a addicted person 5 seconds later, I mean, see what anything else, because you still don't want to miss anything if any news starts. But every time you get on, it's Trump said this, or protest that, or COVID this. It's like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. It's like all negative stuff.
Or
sucks the life out of you.
Or a certain wrestler is like being outed for
that stuff, yeah,
for speaking out. So it's just like I mean,
it's like,
I'm go ahead there, Eric.
No, you could go ahead, John.
Okay. It's just like there's just such, it's just so toxic, and like I've had a few friends who have just shut down completely just because from their psychological well-being, it was really hurting them. And I'm like, hey, like, I mean, like, you don't have to be on here, like, I mean, social media is not exactly real life, and like how people actually act to a certain extent. So I mean, like, it's just it's pretty toxic, to say the least.
Yeah, I respect and everything that's going on. I try to stay out of that now on social media, the whole political and everything else, because I started a Twitter to talk about sports, wrestling, and being that kind of thing. And, I feel certain ways and I feel strong about certain ways, but I feel like, just for me personally, I, would rather talk to people about sports, because honestly, what ends up happening on social media with most people I know is they just argue and start going low on each other, and politics is a touchy subject.
That's being kind about, which is why I'm just happy throughout this whole pandemic that at least we have MMA, which I mean, like, it's, to be perfectly honest, on the weekend has been a godsend, because it's really the only thing on, especially on like Saturday nights. I mean,
well, we had the last dance, the Jordan, the Jordan series, that was incredible. We had the couple ESPN 30 for 30s that were really good. The Undertaker stuff was really good. We've had a little bit of wrestling, to get us through. But yeah, I'm a sports head like you guys, where basically my life. It's like everything is about catching up on sports. So
Hell, man,
yeah.
like I even just like miss going to like freaking hockey games or even basketball games. Like
Or
it's just
hell,
yeah,
just sitting and watching games on TV.
yeah.
Just
I mean,
relaxing, like coming home from work and there's a hockey game on at 7 o'clock our time, and just looking forward to that, or for me working at the Pirate games, or if not working, watching the games, what have you. It's can't take that for granted anymore when
no.
eventually everything comes back. Like
when
it's something to look
everything
forward to.
when everything is completely back, I'm not gonna be taking any of this shit for granted anymore. Like we got a rude awakening of just not everything is I'm guaranteed in this whole thing.
Speaking of
Yeah.
everything coming back, I was going to ask you guys, do you feel like the champions in these sports will have an asterisk? Because I do. I feel like part of winning a championship
Yeah.
is going through that schedule, going in the road and that crowd, the weather. If they're all playing in the same area and there's not really an issue, I think it does have an asterisk.
I think
For baseball
yes,
especially.
because
Like,
you're
only
always
60
going to
games.
have, you only play 60 games, and it was a shortened season. So like down the line, if I don't know, pick a, just for sake of argument here, the Pirates get lucky or whatever, and it's not going to happen. But they get lucky and they win, right? Every year since then, if anybody brings up all the talk about the Pirates championship in 2020, it's going to be like, yeah, but it was a shortened season. They only played 60 games. Like every year, it's going to be somebody 10 years from now is going to make that comment on Twitter. Yeah, but. It's always going to be a yeah, but situation.
And how many teams have started off good the first 60 games and then folded after that? Because then you're going to have to look back at teams that did 60 games, and they're going to be like, oh, other teams have done that, and then they falled out. You know what I mean? And like that is a big – that especially in baseball, that is a big thing. Teams can do good. If I don't know, for example, how many teams, because I'm not that much into baseball, but I would guess that there's a good amount of teams that started good the first 60 games and then fall apart after.
I really don't want to comment because since I work for them, but screw it. Like the Pirates, there was always years, or everybody says every year, oh, they start good, but just wait till June, just wait till July, and see what happens. Or wait till after the deadline.
Sure enough.
And another example, I know like Milwaukee, either between 13 and 15, I don't know, in our division, started out hot. Like they were like great record, a shoe-in for the playoffs, and then they collapsed like right at the end and missed the playoffs, right? You remember that, John? Milwaukee,
yep.
they totally they crapped the bed. Was it 6? Whatever, it doesn't matter. But they crapped the bed right at the end and missed the playoffs. Like unbelievable tank job, and somebody else won the division, obviously.
I'm sure there's plenty of teams throughout history that did good the first 60 games and fell apart enough to leave an asterisk in baseball, because you go from 60 to 120, 162, right? 162 to 60. That isn't even half a season. Like that.
You're squeezing. Yeah, you're squeezing 60 games in like 65 days.
That's
or
a
70
whole
days.
different thing. That's a whole different animal.
Yeah, instead of playing over pretty much what seems like the whole year, basically, and you go from cold weather to 90-degree weather if you're playing outside to back to cold weather, so you have that aspect, and just
the fans, just the whole thing.
The fans, just the grind, like playing every single day pretty much, with like exception for like a wet rest day, going maybe from a night game the day before to an afternoon game, and then right after an afternoon game flying possibly across country to do a West Coast or East Coast trip, whatever team you're rooting for, and then playing basically every day there. and it's a grind of a season, and then obviously the playoffs.
It's a marathon.
Almost the same thing with, not the same thing, but the grind with with hockey. I know you're not playing every day, but
it's like about two or three times a week. So I mean,
well, and hockey's a million times more physical.
right.
And
I mean, that it almost makes up for it,
mm-hmm.
and you're constantly moving.
Yeah.
You're skating. You get off the bench, right? You don't want to be that person to get a delay of game, too many men on the ice penalty. Like, it's constantly moving. There's no out of bounds. There's basically no stoppage, minus TV timeout, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a shorter season, but then the playoffs, you get to the playoffs, and it's just a grind. Like, best of 7 series, every series, you have 4 rounds, and you're playing basically every other day. And just people are playing with broken bones too. And yeah.
More so psychologically, it's, I mean, like, and you can tell it's taxing on these athletes, just because you have to do essentially the same things every single day for about a 2-month span for the postseason, and
yeah. Yep.
It's hard to deal with, for sure. But
the one positive thing about this is that you feel like teams that don't have a chance might have a chance to win, because this is a whole new animal. That's the one positive, but I would definitely say that the quarantine championships will be known as the quarantine championships, and it will feel good, but I think it will definitely not feel the same.
Yeah.
definitely,
Like especially for baseball. I mean, like we said before, with hockey, and pretty much the whole season was played, so you pretty much have that whole season played, so it wasn't really short. But I just thought with the playoff system that I hate, you can have Montreal Canadiens. I'm just bringing it back to the Penguins here. They're playing the Penguins, a 5th seed versus 12. What happens if just all of a sudden Montreal gets just insanely hot, or Carey Price gets hot, and they advance decent into the playoffs by chance?
right?
Like, obviously that would never have happened if this was a regular season, because they wouldn't even sniff the playoffs.
No.
And again, it's going to go back to what if, for any team that Montreal beats, what could have been if the playoffs were just regular 16 teams. So a lot of it is going to be the asterisks. You know, a lot of people the fans on Twitter will be, that's cute, yeah, but
yeah.
So, but at least in the grand scheme of things, at least it's something. If this gets played, if hockey gets played, if baseball gets played, at least it's something. It helps.
Basketball, you got to throw in basketball.
Yeah, in basketball. I mean, I don't watch the NBA as much. Maybe playoffs, whatever. But yeah, of course, basketball, and you got other sports playing now. I think maybe not as popular. You got soccer's playing. So if soccer fans in the country, you have that. If you're a golf fan, there's golf there. So it's a little bit, but it's not going to be anywhere near as a baseball or a hockey or a basketball. It's a slow process, but hopefully this year we get something. It helps.
I can only hope, for sure. But I think this is probably a good place for us to stop here. So Eric, I would like to thank you for
no problem.
This was fun.
For jumping on. We will definitely be doing something more in the future. But as always, Eric, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on your social media or anything?
I'm trying to think of it. That's what I'm trying to think. I think mine is Perez 49. I was like, I don't memorize it. I'm like, I barely even know it. But Perez 49.
I'm sure I have it down in the description.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I'm like, man, if he asked me this, I might not know it. All right, then.
Okay then. So as always, guys, subscribe to our channel and to our Twitter page.
Down below.
Now, and everything will be in the description box. And as we always say, every podcast episode will be appearing every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So for myself, Matt, and also Eric, we will see you guys later. Take it easy.
All right, later.